In the solent green heart of our planet, a conflict of unprecedented scale is unfolding. It is a war waged not with armies and missiles, but with chainsaws, fires, and economic policy. The arena for this struggle is one of the richest and most mysterious habitats on Earth, the jungle. These dense emerald realms cover a mere fraction of the planet's surface, yet they are the crucible of a staggering proportion of its life. In a world increasingly defined by resource scarcity and climate instability, these forests are no longer just natural wonders. They have become critical geopolitical assets, the control of which will determine the future for nations and perhaps for humanity itself. The Amazon, the Congo Basin, the rainforests of Southeast Asia, these are not distant, isolated ecosystems. They are the planet's vital organs, great biological engines that recycle their own rain, generate clouds, and dictate weather patterns thousands of miles beyond their borders. For decades, we have called the Amazon the lungs of the planet, a simplistic metaphor for its oxygen production. But analysts now understand its function is infinitely more complex. It is a global climate regulator, a continental-scale hydrological machine, and a living library of genetic information whose value is only just being calculated. The stability of this system is now under direct threat, and its collapse would trigger cascading consequences for global food security, water access, and international stability. Within these contested territories, life operates with a density that defies imagination. Scientists estimate that a single acre of jungle can host thousands of species, many still unknown to science. A living tapestry of organisms so intricate that we have barely begun to map its connections. Hidden within the leaves are creatures so unusual they seem almost otherworldly. Some glow in the dark, others have mastered perfect camouflage, and many hold biochemical secrets that could revolutionize modern medicine. This immense biodiversity represents one of the greatest untapped strategic resources on Earth. In the silent war for the future, corporations and nation-states are engaged in a high-stakes campaign of bioprospecting, a race to catalog, patent, and control the genetic codes of jungle flora and fauna. The potential economic windfall is astronomical. A single plant compound could lead to a blockbuster drug worth billions. A resilient microbe could unlock new industrial processes. The ethical and geopolitical implications are staggering, raising questions of sovereignty, ownership, and equity. Who owns the genetic code of a plant used by indigenous tribes for centuries? The struggle for the jungle is therefore not just about timber or minerals, but about the very intellectual property of life itself, a new frontier of economic colonialism being fought at the molecular level. To truly grasp the scale of this living system, one must look not at the forest as a whole, but at its fundamental unit, a single tree. In the jungle, one colossal tree can function as an entire self-contained world, a vertical metropolis humming with hidden dramas. From its roots anchored deep in the thin tropical soil to its highest leaves reaching for the sun, it provides shelter and sustenance for an entire ecosystem. Marching columns of ants forge invisible highways along its bark. Birds construct their nests among its boughs, while poison dart frogs raise their young in the miniature pools of water cupped by its leaves. Epiphytes, plants that grow on other plants, drape its branches in a hanging garden, creating yet more habitats within its canopy. Fungi, insects, mammals, and reptiles all depend on this single living pillar for their survival. Some scientific estimates suggest that a single large tree in the Amazon can support more than 2,000 distinct species, each interacting in a web of dependency and competition that we are only beginning to comprehend. It is not merely a plant, it is a city, a battlefield, and a sanctuary, a testament to the ruthless efficiency of nature's design, where every niche is filled and every resource is contested in the relentless struggle for light and life. Nowhere is the jungle's power more evident than in its ability to create its own climate. The Amazon basin, for instance, is not just watered by weather systems rolling in from the Atlantic. It is a prodigious storm maker in its own right. Every one of the estimated 400 billion trees across the basin constantly releases moisture into the air through its leaves in a process called transpiration. The collective effect is staggering. This immense volume of water vapor rises into the atmosphere, where it cools, condenses, and falls back to the earth as rain, nourishing the very forest that summoned it. This closed-loop system is so efficient that scientists believe nearly half of the Amazon's rainfall is recycled moisture, with a single water molecule raining down multiple times before it finally exits the basin. This phenomenon creates what is known as flying rivers, vast invisible plumes of moisture that drift in the atmosphere, carrying more water than the Amazon River itself. The geopolitical significance of this process cannot be overstated. Satellite tracking has confirmed that these flying rivers are critical for agriculture and urban water supplies across South America, influencing rainfall in regions as distant as Argentina. The deforestation of the Amazon is not just a loss of trees. It is the systematic dismantling of a continental-scale water infrastructure. The overall mood threatens to trigger widespread drought, agricultural collapse, and social unrest, demonstrating how the fate of a single ecosystem can hold an entire continent's stability in the balance. In the relentless vertical war for sunlight that defines the jungle, victory is not won through speed, but through strategy and brutal persistence. Here, plants will do whatever it takes to reach the sun, and none are more cunning than the vines known as lianas. These woody climbers employ the strength of established trees as ladders, forging their way ever upward in a slow, inexorable conquest. Some of these living cables grow to astonishing lengths, stretching for more than 200 feet as they curl and loop through the canopy, creating a complex network of natural rigging that binds the entire forest together. In this high-stakes game of thrones, they are both connectors and destroyers. They form bridges for monkeys, sloths, and even leaping frogs, creating highways through the treetops. During violent storms, they can act as anchors, lashing multiple trees together and providing collective stability against the wind. But this support comes at a terrible price. Lianas are masters of parasitic warfare, siphoning water and nutrients from their hosts. The most ruthless of these is the strangler fig, which begins its life as an innocent seed deposited on a high branch. From there, it sends down aerial roots that wrap the host's trunk in a tightening embrace. Over decades, these roots thicken into a suffocating lattice, slowly starving the host of light and resources until it dies, leaving behind a hollow, ghostly column that is the fig's new trunk. This process is a perfect biological analog for a corporate hostile takeover or a geopolitical strategy of slow encirclement. A patient, calculated assault that leverages the host's own strength against it, culminating in total consumption. The breathtaking sight of a single liana, a living cord thicker than a person's arm, looping endlessly toward the light, is a stark reminder that in the jungle, survival is often a matter of slow, methodical conquest. This relentless pressure to adapt forces life to break the very boundaries of its existence. In the flooded forests of the Amazon, where the line between river and land dissolves for months at a time, some fish have learned to defy the limits of their aquatic world. The climbing catfish, a small, armored creature, has developed specialized fins and a suction cup mouth that allow it to cling to rocks, roots, and even the vertical trunks of trees. When the annual floods carry these fish deep into the forest, they thrive. But as the waters recede, many are left stranded in evaporating pools, facing certain death. It is in this moment of crisis that their extraordinary adaptation is revealed. To survive, they begin to climb, inching their way back toward the life-giving rivers, gripping bark and navigating complex root systems with a surprising and surreal skill. Watching a fish methodically ascend a tree is to witness a fundamental law of nature being renegotiated. It is a powerful illustration of strategic adaptation, a lesson in how to survive when the environment becomes untenable. It demonstrates that in the face of existential threat, the most successful organisms are those that can operate in unconventional theaters, blurring the lines between worlds and exploiting new terrains that their competitors cannot. The jungle is a relentless innovator, producing creatures that refuse to be defined by their category. Here, nothing is entirely fixed. Even a fish may learn to travel where, by all logic, it should not belong. When geopolitical analysts speak of natural capital, they are referring to the planet's stock of natural assets, which includes soil, air, water, and all living things. By this metric, jungles represent the most valuable and densely concentrated strategic reserve on the planet. These green realms cover only a small fraction of Earth's landmass, yet they harbor more than half of all known species. The sheer density of life is staggering. Birds, mammals, amphibians, reptiles, insects, plants, and microorganisms. The catalog of life is almost infinite, with new species being discovered every year. No desert, grassland, or ocean can match this concentration. In a single patch of forest no larger than a city block, researchers have documented hundreds of species of trees and thousands of distinct insects. This biodiversity is not merely an ecological novelty. It is a living archive of millions of years of evolutionary solutions. It is a genetic library containing the potential for new medicines, new materials, and new agricultural technologies. The ongoing destruction of these ecosystems, therefore represents more than an environmental tragedy. It is a catastrophic strategic blunder. It is the equivalent of burning the world's most extensive library of unread books, permanently erasing knowledge that could be critical for the future survival and prosperity of humankind. The irreplaceable nature of this biological wealth makes these forests a central front in the global struggle for resources, a prize whose true value we are only just beginning to calculate. In this densely packed arena, communication is survival, and the jungle has evolved the most complex and overwhelming intelligence network on Earth. Step into a jungle at dawn or dusk, and the soundscape is an immersive wall of noise. Birds cry from every direction, insects trill in a hypnotic, pulsating rhythm, frogs croak in vast, synchronized choruses, and unseen mammals issue territorial calls across the canopy. This biological orchestra creates a volume of sound that can rival a bustling metropolis. Sensitive acoustic instruments have recorded decibel levels similar to heavy city traffic. Yet, unlike anthropogenic noise, the jungle sound is a highly structured, layered system of information. It is a constant broadcast of data, a form of information warfare where every organism fights for acoustic territory. Creatures evolve to call at different frequencies, carving out their own auditory niche so their signals can be heard above the din. For these animals, sound is a weapon and a shield. It is used to claim territory, attract mates, and warn of approaching danger. For a predator, this wall of sound acts as a jamming signal, making it incredibly difficult to isolate the location of a single prey animal. For us, it serves as a powerful reminder that these forests are never silent. They are perpetually alive, speaking in a billion different voices, a testament to the endless, noisy, and vibrant struggle for existence. On the dimly lit forest floor, where the struggle for survival is a game of patience and opportunism, even the seemingly immobile are engaged in a slow, calculated battle for position. Among the most unsettling and wondrous inhabitants is the so-called walking palm. This is not a plant of rapid movement, but one of deliberate, long-term strategic repositioning. Its roots grow not just downward into the soil, but outward and downward from the trunk, forming a stilt-like scaffold. When a neighboring tree falls or the canopy shifts, creating a new opening for sunlight, the palm exploits the opportunity. New roots sprout on the side closer to the light, anchoring themselves firmly in the ground, while the older roots on the darker side slowly wither and die. Over the course of years, the entire tree appears to inch its way across the forest floor, a process so slow it's invisible to the naked eye, yet utterly transformative over the life of the tree. Scientists estimate it may shift several feet over its lifespan. This is not random growth. It is a calculated response to changing strategic conditions. In the ruthless marketplace of the jungle, the walking palm is a master of long-range planning, demonstrating that dominance can be achieved not through aggression, but through the patient and persistent pursuit of a superior position. It is a living lesson in geopolitical strategy, where slow, almost imperceptible shifts in resources and alliances can, over time, fundamentally alter the balance of power. This layered competition extends far above, into the hidden world of the canopy. The jungle's upper echelon is more than a simple roof of leaves. It is a complex, self-sufficient ecosystem with its own infrastructure. In the folds and hollows of branches, plants like bromeliads with their tightly overlapping rosette-shaped leaves form natural basins that collect and hold rainwater. These aerial pools, some no larger than a teacup, become entire self-contained aquatic worlds, suspended hundreds of feet in the air. They are a form of distributed infrastructure, a decentralized network of life-sustaining oases. Frogs lay their eggs in them, providing a nursery safe from ground-based predators. Insects swim through their waters, and even small crabs and snails may live their entire lives within these tiny, elevated lakes. For a creature that never descends to the forest floor, these canopy pools provide everything necessary for survival: water, food, and shelter. This network ensures the resilience of the canopy ecosystem. Unlike a centralized river system, which can be disrupted at a single point, this distributed web of countless water sources makes the canopy's inhabitants far less vulnerable. From the outside, the jungle appears as a monolithic sea of green, but inside it is a stack of interconnected worlds, each with its own hidden rivers and habitats layered one upon another in a masterpiece of structural complexity. The jungle's influence, however, is not confined within its physical borders. It actively engineers the world far beyond, acting as an architect of the atmosphere itself. High above the canopy, a constant and invisible chemical process is underway. Certain trees release billions of tons of tiny organic compounds into the air, molecules invisible to the human eye. Once aloft, these volatile organic compounds interact with sunlight and other atmospheric particles, forming microscopic aerosols. These aerosols act as condensation nuclei, the very seeds for cloud droplets, compelling water vapor to condense around them and form the massive clouds that characterize the tropics. In this way, the jungle is not merely reacting to the weather, it is creating it, summoning shade and rain from the sky.
Satellites operated by global powers have captured vast plumes of these tree-borne emissions drifting over the Amazon and the Congo, revealing that these forests are not just breathing oxygen, but are also exhaling the very ingredients of weather. The geopolitical ramifications are immense.
This natural cloud seeding mechanism is the engine that drives the flying rivers, sustaining the agricultural heartlands of entire continents. Any significant degradation of the jungle, therefore, is an act of atmospheric sabotage that threatens the food and water security of nations thousands of miles away. The forest itself becomes a form of strategic leverage, a climate weapon whose power is only now being fully understood by world leaders. Nowhere is the jungle's sheer density of life more evident than in the world of insects, the true rulers of this domain. A single square mile of tropical forest can contain more than 50,000 distinct species of beetles, ants, flies, and moths. This is not just a measure of biodiversity, it is a measure of untapped economic and scientific potential. Each of these organisms is a miniature chemical factory, a potential source for new medicines, industrial enzymes, or biomaterials. Yet this interconnected system also presents a systemic risk. The collapse of a few key insect species, particularly pollinators, could trigger a cascade of extinctions, unraveling the entire ecosystem with a speed that would dwarf the impact of deforestation alone. In the hidden chambers beneath the forest floor, we find the pinnacle of this insect civilization, the leafcutter ants. These ants have become master agriculturalists. They don't eat the fresh greenery they meticulously collect. Instead, they carry the leaf fragments back to vast subterranean nests. There, they chew the leaves into a pulp, which they use to cultivate a specialized fungus that grows only within their colonies. This fungus is their sole source of food, a crop tended with a level of care that rivals any human farm. An advanced caste system of workers prunes away invasive molds, while others bring in fresh leaves to nourish their sprawling fungal gardens. The overall mood of these operations is astonishing. A single colony can contain millions of ants and excavate vast networks of tunnels, a subterranean megalopolis built on the principles of perfect, sustainable agriculture, a feat of engineering and social organization that predates humankind by eons. Their silent, orderly work is a testament to one of the most sophisticated and successful societies on Earth. In the jungle's hyper-competitive environment, survival often demands extreme specialization, pushing organisms to develop tools and strategies that are as brilliant as they are deadly. Among the most striking of these specialists is the poison dart frog. No larger than a human thumb, these amphibians are adorned in brilliant luminous colors, electric blues, fiery reds, and startling yellows. These hues are not for camouflage, they are a declaration of power, an explicit warning signal to the rest of the ecosystem. This is the biological equivalent of a nation displaying its most advanced weaponry as a form of deterrence. The warning is backed by one of the most potent chemical arsenals in the natural world. Some species possess enough toxin in their skin to kill several adult humans. But the frog is not a manufacturer of this weapon. It is a master of procurement and deployment. The toxins are not produced by the frog itself, but are derived from the insects it consumes, ants, mites, and beetles, which, in turn, likely acquire the alkaloids from the plants they eat. This represents a sophisticated chemical supply chain, a biological arms race played out across multiple trophic levels. The frog, through bioaccumulation, concentrates these compounds into a formidable defense. This process has made these tiny amphibians a focal point for bioprospecting. Pharmaceutical corporations are intensely studying these potent neurotoxins, which hold the potential to create revolutionary new painkillers and medical treatments. The fragile frog, a luminous jewel under the canopy's shade, is thus a living symbol of the jungle's hidden value, a biological reactor producing complex compounds that we are only just beginning to understand, a key player in a chemical war with profound implications for science and commerce. From this microscopic world of toxins, we must zoom out to a scale that is almost impossible to comprehend. For the jungle's power lies not only in its intricate details, but also in its staggering, continental-sized dimensions. Stretching across 9 countries, the Amazon jungle is home to an almost unthinkable number of trees. The most recent scientific estimates place the number at over 400 billion individual trees, representing some 16,000 different species. This is not just a forest, it is a planetary-scale carbon bank, the single largest terrestrial reservoir of carbon on Earth. In an age defined by climate change, this biomass has become a geopolitical asset of incalculable worth. These billions of trees are the engine of a global service, absorbing vast amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and locking it away in their trunks, roots, and the soil beneath them. This function has given rise to the multi-billion-dollar global carbon market, a complex financial system where nations and corporations trade carbon credits to offset their emissions. The Amazon, in this new reality, is being transformed from a physical wilderness into a massive, living financial instrument. The geopolitical struggle is no longer just for its timber or minerals, but for the control of its carbon storing capacity. Who has the right to sell these credits? The nations whose sovereign territory the forest covers, or the global community that depends on its climate regulating function? To imagine counting 1 tree every second, a task that would take over 12,000 years to complete, is to begin to grasp the sheer scale of this natural asset, a green expanse so immense that its fate is now inextricably linked to the stability of the global economy and the future of the international political order. Within this vast theater, some life forms operate on timelines that defy our own, engaging in strategic gambles of immense risk and reward. Hidden deep within the forest are plants whose lives unfold on a scale of decades. The giant Titan arum, sometimes called the corpse flower, is a prime example of this long-game strategy. This colossal bloom can take more than a decade to store enough energy to flower. It invests all its resources into a single, massive reproductive event that lasts only a few days. When it finally unfurls, it releases an overwhelming odor of rotting flesh. This is not a flaw, it is a highly specialized marketing campaign. The stench is precisely calibrated to attract its target demographic, the carrion beetles and flies that are its sole pollinators. This is a high-risk, high-reward strategy of extreme proportions. The plant puts all its chips on one bet, a brief window of opportunity after years of patient waiting. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, the parasitic Rafflesia flower employs a similar strategy, opening into a massive 3-foot-wide blossom that also smells of decay and appears only rarely. These plants are a lesson in strategic patience and the calculated deployment of resources. They demonstrate that in certain competitive environments, the most effective strategy is not constant incremental growth, but the quiet accumulation of power followed by a single, decisive, and overwhelming move that changes the game. To witness one is to see a fleeting miracle of biological engineering, a dramatic spectacle of calculated risk before the forest returns to its hidden, patient rhythms. At the apex of this complex system of hunters and hunted stands the ultimate enforcer, a predator whose power is as silent as it is absolute: the jaguar. As the largest cat in the Americas, the jaguar is a keystone species, the central pillar supporting the arch of the entire ecosystem. Its health and presence are a direct barometer of the stability of the jungle itself. Unlike lions or tigers that often hunt in groups or target soft flesh, the jaguar is a solitary master of overwhelming force. Its skull and jaw muscles are uniquely built for power, giving it a bite force that is, pound for pound, one of the strongest of any big cat. This allows it to employ a hunting technique unseen in its cousins. It can pierce directly through the armored shells of turtles and the thick skulls of its prey, delivering a single fatal bite. This unique ability grants it access to a food source unavailable to other predators. Jaguars move with a quiet elegance, swimming across rivers or stalking through dense undergrowth before delivering their devastatingly efficient strike. In a geopolitical sense, the jaguar is the guarantor of systemic stability. Its predation on a wide variety of animals keeps populations in check, preventing any one species from overwhelming the system. A decline in the jaguar population is a red flag, an indicator of imminent systemic collapse, much like a credit downgrade signals an economy in crisis. Their power is a reminder that in any complex system, from a jungle to a global market, stability is ultimately maintained by a concentration of force that enforces the rules of the game. Not all defenses in the jungle are based on brute force or chemical warfare. Some are built on information, sensitivity, and rapid response. On the forest floor, the sensitive plant, Mimosa pudica, has engineered a living, decentralized early warning system. To the casual observer, it is a delicate, fern-like plant. But when touched, its feathery leaves collapse inward in a matter of seconds, a dramatic and visible retreat from contact. This movement is not mere reflex, it is a sophisticated hydraulic mechanism driven by rapid changes in water pressure within the plant's cells. The effect is so striking it appears almost animal-like. But the strategic brilliance lies in its network effect. When a herbivore brushes against one part of a dense patch, the signal propagates in a cascading wave of collapsing leaves, visually transmitting the location and path of a disturbance across the entire cluster. This is a biological sensor grid, a low-energy surveillance network where each plant acts as a node, and the collective provides real-time intelligence on potential threats. Scientists believe this behavior deters herbivores, but its function as a signaling system is undeniable. To witness it is to see a landscape that does not simply endure, but actively responds, recoils, and communicates, turning a simple patch of greenery into a living tripwire in the jungle's silent war. This principle of sophisticated engineering extends from the flora to the insect world, where some of the planet's most advanced architects operate on a colossal scale. Beneath the jungle's surface, termite colonies function as superorganisms, and their mounds are masterpieces of sustainable engineering. These earthen structures, often rising taller than an adult human, are far more than simple nests. They are self-regulating fortresses, climate-controlled cities designed for optimal function in the sweltering jungle. The external form, which seems almost like random sculpture, is in fact a precisely designed shell. Inside, a stunningly complex network of tunnels, chambers, and ventilation shafts creates a passive cooling and heating system. By harnessing natural convection currents, the termites maintain a remarkably stable internal temperature and humidity, essential for cultivating the fungus gardens that are their primary food source. This is a form of advanced bioarchitecture that human engineers now study through biomimicry, seeking to replicate its energy-efficient principles in our own buildings.
The mound is a city with specialized zones for royalty, nurseries, and food production. It is a fortress with soldier castes ready to defend against intruders. And it is a climate control system that operates without any external power source, a monumental testament to how even the smallest creatures, through collective intelligence, can engineer their environment on a scale that leaves a lasting mark on the landscape for centuries. The environment these termites have mastered is one of the most oppressive on Earth. To walk into a jungle is to step into a living cloud, an atmosphere so saturated with moisture that it feels almost liquid. The air is heavy, clinging to the skin and filling every breath. In many regions, the humidity approaches 100%, a condition that fundamentally alters the rules of existence. This constant, pervasive dampness is not merely a feature of the climate. It is an element of environmental control, actively maintained by the forest's transpiration. For non-native organisms, including humans, the effect can be debilitating. Sweat does not evaporate, leading to rapid overheating. Equipment corrodes, and visibility is often reduced by clinging mist. This atmosphere acts as a strategic barrier, a defensive shield that favors the adapted and repels the unacclimated. Life here has evolved to thrive in this endless moisture, from frogs whose skin must remain perpetually wet to the fungi that flourish in the damp shadows. The jungle is not just wet from rain. It is wet from the very air it breathes, creating a unique operational theater where moisture is as constant and as critical a factor as terrain or temperature in any human conflict. Deep within this world of water and steam, there are places where the Earth's hidden power breaks through to the surface with terrifying force. In the Peruvian Amazon flows a river that defies belief, known to locals as Shanai Timpishka, or boiled with the heat of the sun. Its waters, stretching for several miles, reach temperatures hot enough to inflict fatal burns, bubbling and steaming as if flowing from the heart of a volcano. Yet this incredible phenomenon lies hundreds of miles from any known volcanic activity, a geological anomaly that has long puzzled scientists. The current hypothesis is that the heat originates from a massive geothermal system deep underground, where water seeps through fault lines, is superheated by the Earth's mantle, and then rises back to the surface. For local communities, the river is a sacred and dangerous place, guarded by spirits. For the modern world, it represents something else, a powerful indicator of immense untapped geothermal energy. In a global economy desperately seeking renewable power sources, the discovery of such a potent geothermal feature transforms this remote patch of jungle from a biological preserve into a potential strategic energy asset. The boiling river is a stark reminder that beneath the jungle's green canopy lies another world of geological forces, a hidden furnace whose power could one day be harnessed, igniting new geopolitical contests for the resources that lie beneath the forest floor. Where the jungle's power is not expressed in heat, it is often expressed in its opposite, the absolute privation of light. Beneath the thick, interlocking ceiling of the canopy, sunlight is a currency more valuable than gold. In the densest parts of the jungle, less than 2% of daylight ever reaches the forest floor, creating a shadowed, silent world where only the most specialized plants can survive. The ground is often a bare carpet of decaying leaves, a realm of patience and shadows. Life here operates on the principle of strategic waiting. Seedlings may lie dormant for years, even decades, in a state of suspended animation, waiting for a single catastrophic event, a falling tree, to open a temporary window to the sun. When that moment comes, they explode upward in a desperate race to claim the newly available light before the canopy closes once more. This is the ultimate long game, a strategy of extreme patience, where survival depends not on constant struggle, but on the readiness to act decisively when a rare opportunity presents itself. It is a world where growth is measured in moments of radical change, a silent, waiting battlefield where victory often goes not to the strongest, but to the most patient. The true power of the jungle is not merely in the visible struggle between predator and prey, but in the vast, hidden networks of communication and alliance that operate beneath the surface, a realm of covert operations and collective intelligence. Buried in the soil lies a communications grid as complex as any human-designed internet. This is the Wood Wide Web, a sprawling subterranean network of tiny fungal filaments that connect the root systems of different trees, allowing them to share resources and transmit critical information. Through this biological dark web, trees can issue encrypted chemical warnings to their neighbors about insect attacks, triggering a forest-wide defensive response.
The overall mood should be relaxed, strategically funneling nutrients and carbon to weaker members of the community or to their own offspring struggling in the understory's gloom. This is not a random collection of individuals competing for resources. It is a highly sophisticated, cooperative society engaged in complex resource management and collective security. To know that the trees are engaged in a constant, silent conversation fundamentally changes our perception of the forest. It is not a battlefield of disconnected combatants, but a living, thinking superorganism, a collective intelligence that coordinates its survival through a hidden network of alliances, whispering warnings and sharing wealth through the soil. When darkness falls, a different kind of network activates, a critical supply chain operated by nocturnal specialists. While many bats hunt insects, some species have evolved to become precision pollinators, the special operators of the jungle night. With long tongues and a highly developed sense of smell, they flit between flowers that open only after sunset, sipping nectar and carrying pollen from plant to plant. Their work is a covert but essential economic activity with global ramifications. In regions like Central and South America, these bats are the primary pollinators for crops of immense commercial value, including bananas, guavas, and most notably, cacao, the source of the multi-billion-dollar global chocolate industry. This delicate relationship is built on perfect timing and coevolution. The flowers release their alluring scents only at night, a private invitation to their nocturnal partners. The work of these bats is a subsidy from nature to the global economy, an unseen labor force that ensures the stability of entire agricultural sectors. The decline of these key species, driven by habitat loss, would trigger a cascade failure not only in the jungle's ecosystem, but in the global supply chains that depend on their silent, nightly work. Presiding over this nocturnal theater and the bustling world of the day is a predator that embodies absolute aerial dominance. High in the canopy lives the harpy eagle, a hunter as awe-inspiring as any jungle cat. With a wingspan that can exceed 7 feet, it is one of the largest and most powerful eagles on Earth, an apex aerial platform designed for projecting force into the dense and complex terrain of the treetops. But its most extraordinary feature, the weapon system that sets it apart, is its talons. Each black talon can be up to 5 inches long, larger and more powerful than the claws of a grizzly bear. With this incredible gripping force, the harpy eagle can snatch fully grown monkeys and sloths directly from the branches, neutralizing threats with shocking efficiency and carrying them away in powerful flight. Despite their immense size, these eagles are masters of agility, weaving through the dense canopy with the precision of a fighter jet.
They are the enforcers of the jungle's upper echelons, the guarantors of air superiority. Their presence is a key indicator of a healthy, functioning canopy ecosystem, a sign that the complex web of life in the treetops is in balance. To glimpse one is to witness the jungle's ultimate expression of predatory power, a bird whose strength and precision rivals that of beasts far larger than itself. In a direct strategic counterpoint to the harpy eagle's overwhelming power, the jungle has produced a master of stealth, an organism that has turned its greatest vulnerability into its ultimate defense. Sloths are among the slowest moving mammals on Earth, a trait that should make them easy targets. Yet they have engineered a sophisticated form of biological camouflage, a living ghillie suit that renders them nearly invisible. Their thick, coarse fur is uniquely designed with cracks that trap moisture, creating a humid microenvironment that encourages green algae to grow directly on their bodies. This living cloak blends them seamlessly with the surrounding leaves, a form of active stealth technology that makes them incredibly difficult for visual predators like the harpy eagle to detect. The symbiosis is even more complex. A species of moth lives exclusively in the sloth's fur, and when the moths die, their bodies are broken down by fungi, providing the essential nutrients that fertilize the algal garden, deepening the camouflage. The sloth has become a walking, self-sustaining ecosystem. It is not merely hiding, it is actively cultivating a disguise. It is a testament to the jungle's strategic diversity, a creature that survives not through speed or strength, but by becoming a moving garden, a target so perfectly integrated with its environment that it effectively disappears in plain sight. This intricate web of dependency is replicated at every conceivable scale, revealing the jungle's fractal nature. To the human eye, a single leaf is a simple surface of green, but in the jungle, one leaf is a universe. Microscopic fungi and bacteria colonize its tissues, recycling nutrients. Tiny insects graze upon its edges, while others lay their eggs in delicate hidden clusters. Ants patrol its surface, acting as mercenary guards, protecting the leaf from herbivores in exchange for drops of nectar. Water pools in its grooves, creating miniature ponds where even smaller creatures live out their entire lives. Researchers studying individual leaves have found dozens of species interacting on that single, fragile surface. This is the principle of extreme decentralization, the key to the jungle's resilience. The system's immense biodiversity is not just spread out across millions of square miles. It is replicated in miniature millions of times over on every tree, branch, and leaf. This massive redundancy ensures that the jungle as a whole can withstand localized shocks and failures. It is a living lesson in network theory, a reminder that the most robust systems are those where complexity and life are distributed at every possible scale. In the dense competitive marketplace of the jungle, the dispersal of assets is a critical component of long-term survival. For plants rooted to the spot, getting their next generation, their seeds, away from the parent's shadow is a paramount strategic objective. While some rely on animals, others have developed a more dramatic, violent method of power projection: ballistic dispersal. Certain seed pods are marvels of mechanical engineering, drying in the sun and building internal tension until they reach a breaking point. They then burst with an audible crack, flinging their seeds outward with explosive force. Some species can launch their offspring more than 30 feet away, a biological shotgun blast that scatters them into new, unclaimed territory. This is not a gentle release, it is a calculated act of propulsion designed to bypass the competition crowded around the parent plant. To witness it is to see a plant turn stored solar energy into kinetic force, a sudden, startling release that echoes through the undergrowth.
In a place where survival often depends on finding a rare sliver of light in space, these plants have become inventors of motion, turning their stillness into a weapon of explosive energy to ensure their legacy is not confined to a single location, but is projected across the battlefield. This defiance of conventional limitations is a recurring theme, pushing creatures to master environments in ways that seem to defy the laws of physics. Among the most astonishing sights is a snake that has taken to the air. The paradise tree snake of Southeast Asia has mastered a form of controlled flight. Leaping from a high branch, it flattens its entire body, effectively turning its rib cage into a wing. And by undulating in a sinuous S-shape, it generates lift, gliding gracefully from one tree to another. These are not uncontrolled falls, they are precise aerial maneuvers that can cover distances of over 100 feet. For the snake, this ability is a multi-purpose strategic advantage. It provides a rapid escape route from predators and, conversely, a revolutionary way to hunt, allowing it to ambush prey from the air. To see a serpent, an animal normally bound to the earth, transform into a living ribbon of motion sailing through the canopy is to be reminded that the jungle is a laboratory for radical innovation. Here, even the fundamental force of gravity becomes negotiable. This is asymmetric strategy in its purest form, where an organism develops a unique capability that its competitors and predators can't counter, changing the very dimensions of the battlefield. The jungle's power is often concentrated in hidden, pulsating centers of immense biological energy. Within the limestone cliffs of many tropical forests lie vast caverns that are not geological features, but living, breathing entities. These caves can house millions of bats, clustered in such density that they appear as a single, shifting mass. At dusk, they emerge in a swirling vortical storm, a river of life that blackens the sky as they fan out across the landscape to hunt. The sheer number of individuals is overwhelming. Their wings create a palpable wind, and their collective sonar clicks would be deafening if they weren't above the range of human hearing. Inside the caves, the floor is coated in meters-thick layers of guano, a nutrient-rich deposit that is a strategic resource in itself. This guano supports its own unique ecosystem of insects and fungi and, when washed out by rains, acts as a powerful fertilizer for the surrounding forest. These bat colonies are not just populations, they are biological power plants, consuming staggering numbers of insects each night and playing a critical role in regulating the health of the entire ecosystem. To stand at the mouth of such a cave at dusk is to witness the jungle's hidden engine being switched on, an eruption of life that transforms nightfall into a living, breathing cloud of immense ecological and economic importance. In the endless arms race of the jungle, where every organism is both a resource and a threat, some have evolved defensive strategies so extreme they border on the unbelievable. In the rainforests of Southeast Asia, certain species of ants have weaponized self-destruction for the good of the colony. When threatened by a larger predator, these exploding ants can voluntarily and violently rupture special glands running the length of their bodies. The act is suicidal, but it releases a sticky, toxic chemical goo that entangles and immobilizes their enemies, saving the wider colony from the attack. This strategy of ultimate self-sacrifice is a chilling example of collectivist defense. The individual ant ceases to be an organism and becomes a sentient biological weapon, a living landmine that deploys itself for the survival of the superorganism. This is a level of strategic commitment that is rare in the animal kingdom. It is a stark reminder that in the dense, brutal competition of the jungle, the value of the individual is often subordinated to the continuation of the collective. Even among creatures so small, the jungle produces strategies of warfare as dramatic and absolute as any found among its largest predators. The lifeblood of this entire system, the great artery that powers this continental-scale biological machine, is the Amazon River. Winding for more than 4,000 miles, it is a force of nature so vast that it beggars belief. During the peak of the rainy season, the Amazon carries nearly 1/5 of all the fresh water that flows into the world's oceans. Its daily discharge is greater than the next 7 largest rivers on Earth combined. The scale is geopolitical. Its width can expand to the point where one bank is invisible from the other, creating a freshwater sea that moves through the heart of a continent. This river is not just a channel for water, it is the central pillar of a massive logistical network. It floods vast forests, creating new habitats. It transports trillions of tons of nutrient-rich sediment, fertilizing the land. It supports a staggering abundance of life, from dolphins and manatees to thousands of species of fish that are a critical source of protein for tens of millions of people. To stand on its banks is to feel the presence of a planetary-scale engine, a moving sea that dictates the terms of life for an entire continent, and whose health and flow directly impact global climate and ocean currents. In the jungle's intricate economy, every substance is a resource, and scarcity drives the evolution of bizarre and unexpected relationships. Along the sun-drenched banks of the Amazon's tributaries, a delicate and surreal transaction unfolds. Brightly colored butterflies gather on the heads of basking river turtles, gently extending their proboscises to drink the tears from their eyes. This behavior, known as lacrophagy, is not a sign of affection. It is a desperate act of resource extraction. The Amazon basin, for all its lushness, is an incredibly mineral-poor environment. Sodium, a mineral essential for nerve function and reproduction, is critically scarce. Turtle tears, rich in salt, represent one of the few concentrated, mobile sources of this vital element. The turtles, seemingly unbothered, become living salt licks, their bodies a critical piece of infrastructure in a hidden economy. The butterflies are the miners in this system, patiently extracting a resource they cannot find elsewhere. This interaction is a powerful metaphor for resource dependency in our own world, where nations and corporations will forge unusual alliances to gain access to a single critical commodity. It reveals how even the most subtle details of life are governed by the ruthless logic of supply and demand, stitching beauty and necessity together in a relationship that is at once tender and deeply transactional. This capacity for enduring extreme environmental constraints has pushed some organisms to develop capabilities that border on science fiction. In the high-altitude or seasonal forests bordering the tropics, certain tree frogs have evolved a staggering solution to the threat of freezing temperatures. As the air drops below zero, their bodies begin to freeze solid. Ice crystals form in their abdominal cavity, around their organs, and even within their tissues. Their heart stops beating, their breathing ceases, and by all clinical definitions, they are dead.
Yet they are not. Just before freezing, the frog's body floods its cells with immense quantities of glucose and other cryoprotectant compounds. This syrupy solution acts as a biological antifreeze, protecting the delicate cellular structures from being shredded by ice crystals. When the air warms again, the frog thaws. Its heart sputters back to life, and it returns to its existence as if nothing had happened. This is not mere survival. It is a natural mastery of cryopreservation, a biological technology that is the holy grail for modern medical science. The ability to freeze and revive organs without damage is a multi-billion-dollar problem that this small frog has already solved. Its unique biochemistry is now a prime target for bioprospecting, a living blueprint for innovations that could revolutionize organ transplantation and long-term space travel. The jungle does not just host life, it actively engineers the conditions for it, creating its own infrastructure down to the movement of the air itself. The vast, dense canopy is not a static ceiling, but a dynamic surface that reshapes the atmosphere. During the day, the intense equatorial sun warms the treetops, creating powerful rising currents of air. At night, as the canopy radiates heat and cools, the air sinks, stirring subtle but significant winds. The friction created by billions of leaves and branches breaks up these air movements into a complex system of swirling eddies and localized currents. For the inhabitants of the canopy, this is a private transportation network. These forest-generated winds are the highways used by insects, the carriers for pollen and seeds, and the medium for the chemical signals and pheromones that constitute a hidden language.
Scientists studying the atmosphere above jungles have found that the canopy behaves almost like the surface of an ocean, creating waves and turbulence that ripple through the sky. While the air on the forest floor may be eerily still, the world above is an invisible sea of wind, an atmospheric infrastructure shaped and controlled entirely by the living surface of the forest. This self-contained world of the canopy, with its unique atmospheric conditions, is also a nutritional desert. With no access to the soil far below, life here has had to invent ingenious solutions to acquire essential nutrients like nitrogen. High on the branches, carnivorous plants like bromeliads and pitcher plants have become masters of resource monopolization. They create pools within their leaves filled with rainwater, but these are not the benevolent nurseries used by frogs. They are deadly traps. Insects drawn to the water or the plant's scent fall in and are unable to escape the slippery, downward-pointing hairs. Over time, the trapped creatures drown and are broken down by a soup of digestive enzymes, releasing their precious nutrients, which the plant then absorbs. This adaptation is the equivalent of a nation with no natural resources developing an advanced technology to import and process raw materials from its neighbors. These plants have created their own vertically integrated supply chain for nitrogen, allowing them to thrive in an environment where their competitors starve. Each miniature pool is a complete predatory ecosystem, a self-sufficient factory processing raw materials into life-sustaining energy suspended high above the ground. On a macro scale, all of these intricate systems, the regulation of moisture, heat, and air currents, combine to produce the jungle's most impressive feat of engineering, its own sovereign climate. The overall massive canopy acts as a massive shield, insulating the world below from the harsh external environment. It blocks the sun, keeping the forest floor significantly cooler than the cleared land outside its borders. It traps the immense moisture released by the trees, maintaining the super high humidity that defines its existence. And it acts as a colossal windbreak, creating the stillness of the understory. Together, these forces create a stable, self-regulated microclimate that is often dramatically different from the regional weather patterns. This is the ultimate expression of environmental sovereignty. The jungle does not merely exist within a climate. It creates and defends its own, establishing a unique and stable internal state that allows its hyper-specialized forms of life to flourish. It is a living, breathing fortress that controls its own borders and manages its own internal atmosphere. A powerful demonstration that the most resilient systems are those that can regulate their own environment. The notion of technology as a uniquely human endeavor dissolves in the jungles of South America and Asia.
Here, certain primate societies have developed their own enduring technological cultures. Capuchin monkeys and macaques have been observed using sophisticated toolkits, demonstrating behaviors that are learned, refined, and passed down through generations. This is not simple instinct, it is the transmission of knowledge. Researchers have documented them selecting specific stones to use as hammers, placing hard-shelled nuts on other stones used as anvils, and cracking them open with practiced, intelligent force. They use sticks to probe for insects in rotting logs and to test the depth of water. In some regions, entire troops develop unique, localized techniques, creating distinct technological traditions. This is, in effect, a non-human Stone Age.
The discovery of ancient discarded monkey tools has even given rise to the field of primate archaeology, a discipline that challenges our deepest assumptions about the origins of technology and culture. To watch a young monkey intently observe an elder and then clumsily imitate the technique for cracking a nut is to witness the birth of culture, a humbling glimpse into a shared heritage of ingenuity that has shaped not only our own history, but the lives of our primate relatives for millions of years. As night falls, the jungle deploys another form of advanced technology, one based not on stone, but on light. In the profound darkness, the forest floor and canopy begin to glow with an inner fire. This is the work of bioluminescent beetles and fungi, organisms that have mastered the chemical production of light. This is not a passive glow. It is a sophisticated form of biological information technology. Each flicker and pulse is a packet of data, a signal broadcast into the darkness. For fireflies, synchronized flashes are a complex language of courtship, a luminous code that allows mates to find each other across vast distances. For other beetles, a steady glow may be a warning to predators, a signal that they are toxic and not worth attacking. For some fungi, the eerie light, known as foxfire, attracts insects that then carry their spores to new territories. Entire hillsides can become living communication networks, twinkling with thousands of individual nodes broadcasting information. This is nature's fiber optic grid, a decentralized, low-energy system for transmitting data. To walk through a jungle alive with bioluminescence is to witness one of nature's quiet wonders, a reminder that illumination is not only the gift of the sun, but also a technology engineered by life itself, painting the darkness with a silent, living language of light. For millennia, the jungle has served not only as a cradle of life, but as a source of engineering blueprints for human innovation. The remarkable structures within the forest are the result of millions of years of natural research and development in structural mechanics. One of the most significant of these technologies is the liana. These vines, stretching like living steel cables between massive trees, are masterpieces of tensile strength and flexibility. Observing their incredible load-bearing capacity, early civilizations in South America, particularly the Inca, developed a revolutionary form of infrastructure, the suspension bridge. By weaving vines and grasses together into thick ropes, they created bridges that could span deep ravines and raging rivers, connecting their vast empire. Some of these living structures, constantly reinforced by new growth, lasted for centuries. This was not invention, but technology transfer. The fundamental engineering principles of the modern steel suspension bridge, a hallmark of human achievement, were copied directly from a design perfected by plants in the jungle's endless race for the sky. Every strand of liana swinging in the canopy is not just a pathway for monkeys, but a testament to a biological patent on which much of our own engineering is based. Where some jungle inhabitants engineer structures, others have perfected the art of mobile warfare on a scale that rivals human armies. Army ants are among the most feared and formidable forces on the forest floor.
They do not maintain permanent nests, but exist in a state of perpetual campaign, a nomadic military superpower. They travel in massive columns, with millions of individuals moving as a single, coordinated entity. These living rivers can stretch for hundreds of feet, a blitzkrieg force flowing across the landscape in search of resources. Anything caught in their path, insects, spiders, scorpions, even small vertebrates, is instantly overwhelmed by sheer numbers, disassembled and carried away. This is not chaos, it is a marvel of logistics and command and control. Scout ants range ahead to identify targets, while soldier ants with massive jaws guard the flanks of the column. When they rest, they form temporary bivouacs, forward operating bases made entirely from their own interlocked bodies, protecting the queen and larvae within. For the jungle, their march is a force of creative destruction, a devastating raid that also clears out weaker organisms and recycles immense quantities of nutrients. To witness such a column is to see collective intelligence in its most terrifying and efficient form, a swarm that behaves, thinks, and fights as if it were a single organism, relentless and unstoppable. In the jungle's dark recesses, the principles of warfare are pushed to even more shocking extremes, producing specialists in asymmetric combat. In the subterranean darkness of caves, a predator demonstrates a tactic so audacious it seems to violate the natural order. The giant centipede, an invertebrate growing up to a foot long, hunts not only on the ground but in the air. These creatures climb the cave walls and ceilings, anchoring their rear legs to the stone and hanging upside down, waiting patiently in the darkness. When bats, the masters of flight and echolocation, swarm through the cave, the centipede lashes out with blinding speed, seizing a flying mammal directly from the air. Its venomous front legs, acting like pincers, deliver a potent toxin, and it begins to feed while still suspended from the ceiling. This is an incredible feat of unconventional warfare. A low-tech, ground-based organism has developed a strategy to neutralize a high-tech aerial opponent by exploiting a choke point in the environment. It is a stunning reminder that in the jungle, size and technological superiority do not guarantee victory. Danger is everywhere, and even creatures that creep in the shadows can develop hunting strategies as revolutionary and as deadly as any of the great cats. Deep within the jungles of Southeast Asia, the forest floor occasionally gives host to a life form so alien and so extreme it seems to have emerged from another world. This is Rafflesia arnoldi, the largest single flower on Earth. Its appearance is a rare and shocking event. A massive, fleshy blossom measuring more than 3 feet across and weighing over 15 pounds erupts directly from the floor, its thick, leathery petals modeled in a grotesque pattern of deep red and white. But its most defining feature is its method of attracting pollinators. Like the Titan arum, it emits a powerful stench of rotting flesh, a highly specialized deception to lure the carrion flies it depends on. The Rafflesia itself has no leaves, no stem, and no roots. It is a pure parasite, living its entire life cycle as a filament-like network inside the woody vines of its host, completely invisible. It only reveals itself when it flowers, a brief, dramatic spectacle before it vanishes once again. The Rafflesia is a master of biological vampirism, a specialist that has outsourced all of its primary life functions to another organism in order to focus its entire energy on a single, massive act of reproduction. It is a chillingly effective strategy of pure dependence, a reminder that in the jungle, some of the most successful organisms are not producers, but extractors that thrive by siphoning the life force of others.
For centuries, the great jungles of the world, particularly the Amazon, were viewed by the outside world as pristine, untouched wildernesses, virgin landscapes devoid of significant human history. This narrative, however, was a profound misreading of the evidence, a dismissal of a history that was not written in stone, but in the soil itself. Across the Amazon basin, archaeologists have discovered vast patches of dark, unusually fertile earth known as terra preta, or black earth. Unlike the typically thin, nutrient-poor soils of the jungle, terra preta is rich, deep, and remarkably long-lasting, capable of sustaining intensive agriculture. Scientific analysis has revealed its composition, a complex mixture of charcoal, broken pottery, animal bones, and organic waste, unmistakable evidence that it was not a natural formation, but a man-made agricultural technology created by large, complex societies. Some of these soils date back more than 2,000 years, shattering the myth of an empty Amazon. It proves that the jungle was not a wilderness, but a cultivated, engineered landscape, home to advanced civilizations that knew how to enrich their environment rather than simply extract from it. The existence of terra preta is now a major geopolitical issue. It is a direct challenge to historical narratives that were often used to justify colonial expansion and the displacement of indigenous peoples. Furthermore, in a world facing a crisis of soil degradation and food security, the secrets of terra preta, how to create a self-sustaining, carbon-negative, fertile soil, represent a priceless form of ancestral technology. The overall mood, a story written in the soil, was only the first chapter. For centuries, rumors and legends told of great lost cities swallowed by the jungle. Tales often dismissed by Western academics as the fantasies of explorers. But in the 21st century, a revolutionary technology has pierced the canopy and confirmed that the legends were true. Using LiDAR, a form of laser mapping that can see through dense vegetation, archaeologists have scanned vast swaths of jungle from the air, digitally stripping away the trees to reveal the ground beneath. The results are breathtaking. Hidden beneath the canopies of Central and South America are the ruins of vast, ancient cities, complete with sprawling plazas, towering pyramids, complex road networks, and sophisticated systems of canals and agricultural earthworks stretching for miles. Some of these sites rival medieval European cities in their size and complexity, suggesting populations in the hundreds of thousands. These were not small tribes. They were urban civilizations that collapsed and were slowly, methodically reclaimed by the jungle, their stone temples and bustling streets buried under a blanket of green silence. This technology has become a tool of immense cultural and political power. For the modern nations of these regions, LiDAR is uncovering a deep, pre-colonial history of urbanism and engineering, reshaping national identity. For indigenous communities, it provides concrete proof of their ancestors' accomplishments and strengthens their claims to ancestral lands.
The jungle, once seen as a barrier to history, is now revealed to be its ultimate vault, a living archive that preserved the stories of entire civilizations, waiting for a key made of light to unlock them. High above the physical landscape of the Amazon, a second, invisible river flows through the sky, a phenomenon whose scale and importance are only now being understood by global strategists. This is the flying river. The process is a direct consequence of the forest's physiology. Billions of trees release immense quantities of water vapor through transpiration, collectively exhaling a plume of moisture so vast that it carries more water than the Amazon River itself. This massive airborne stream of vapor drifts westward, guided by prevailing winds, and becomes the primary source of rainfall for a huge swath of the South American continent. This is not just a weather pattern, it is a piece of critical, continent-spanning infrastructure.
The agricultural heartlands of Brazil, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina, some of the world's most productive breadbaskets, are critically dependent on the rainfall generated by this flying river. The geopolitical implications are severe and immediate. The accelerating deforestation in the Amazon is not a localized environmental issue. It is a direct threat to the water security and economic stability of neighboring states. By diminishing the forest's capacity to generate this moisture, one nation's domestic policy on land use can effectively create a drought in another, an act of unintentional, or perhaps one day intentional, ecological warfare. The flying river turns the Amazon into a shared and contested resource, raising the specter of future conflicts fought not over oil or territory, but over the control of rainfall.
In the jungle's hyper-competitive environment, success often hinges on attracting the right partners. And some plants have evolved strategies of deception that are as ingenious as they are repellent. While many flowers produce sweet fragrances to attract bees and butterflies, others have mastered a form of niche marketing that targets a very different clientele. Flowers like the corpse lily and the Titan arum produce an odor that perfectly mimics the smell of decaying meat. To the human nose, the stench is nauseating, but to the flies and beetles that lay their eggs and feed on carrion, it is an irresistible invitation. This is a highly effective targeted advertising campaign. Drawn in by the promise of a rotting carcass, these insects crawl deep into the flower, inadvertently picking up and depositing pollen. This morbid strategy is crucial for plants that bloom rarely and briefly, ensuring that their massive energy investment pays off by guaranteeing pollination. In the crowded marketplace of the jungle, where thousands of species are competing for pollinators, sweetness is not the only way to win. By producing the foulest of smells, these plants have cornered a specific market, turning the scent of death into a lure for new life in a dramatic and unsettling drama of disguise. Beneath the muddy, murky waters of the Amazon's tributaries, another form of extreme biological engineering is at play. Here swims the electric eel, a creature that has mastered a fundamental force of nature and turned it into both a weapon and a sensory system. Despite its name, it is not a true eel, but a type of knife fish. Yet it is unquestionably one of the most remarkable predators in the world. Growing over 8 feet long, its body contains thousands of specialized cells called electrocytes, which are stacked like batteries. By discharging them in unison, the eel can generate a shock of up to 600 volts, a jolt powerful enough to stun a horse or incapacitate a human. This is a formidable offensive and defensive weapon, allowing it to neutralize prey and deter predators like caimans. But its mastery of electricity is far more sophisticated. The eel also emits a constant, low-level electric field around its body. Any object that enters this field, whether a rock, a log, or a potential meal, distorts the field. And the eel reads these distortions through thousands of receptors on its skin. This is a form of biological radar, an active sensory system that allows it to navigate and hunt with lethal precision in the zero visibility conditions of the muddy water. The electric eel is not just an animal, it is a living power plant and a sophisticated piece of sensory hardware, a creature that has weaponized the very fabric of physics. On the placid surfaces of jungle streams and pools, a far more delicate, though no less miraculous, mastery of physics is on display. Here, insects known as water striders perform a quiet act of defiance against gravity. Their long, slender legs are tipped with thousands of microscopic water-repellent hairs. This design allows them to distribute their minimal weight so perfectly across the water's surface tension that they never sink. They skate effortlessly across the liquid surface, which for them is not a barrier but a solid pathway. a hunting ground, and an escape route all in one. Their movements create tiny, perfect circular ripples, the only evidence of their passage. They are masters of a complex physical principle, exploiting the cohesion of water molecules to live in a niche that is inaccessible to almost any other creature. The overall mood is now the subject of intense study in the fields of robotics and nanotechnology, as engineers seek to replicate this method for creating miniature water-walking machines. To see them skim across a glassy pool is to witness a creature that has turned the very laws of nature into an advantage, transforming the line between air and water into a stage for their silent, elegant dance.
Brilliant flashes of scarlet, sapphire, and gold cut across the canopy as macaws take flight. These are not just the jungle's most vibrant inhabitants, they are its living historians. In the wild, macaws can live for more than 50 years, with some individuals in captivity surpassing 70. This remarkable longevity means a single bird may outlive multiple generations of the predators that hunt it, and witness profound changes in the forest it calls home. They form lifelong pair bonds, their calls echoing from miles as they communicate, reinforcing a bond that can last for half a century. More than just long-lived, they are highly intelligent, capable of solving complex problems and passing down knowledge, such as the location of seasonal fruit trees or safe nesting sites, to their young. In this sense, a macaw is not just an animal, it is a living repository of data, a long-term chronicle of the forest's rhythms. To think of a single mind observing the jungle for over 50 years is to glimpse the deep, slow time in which this ecosystem operates. They are the sentinels of the canopy, their long lives a testament to the stability of the ancient forest and a stark warning of what is lost when that stability is broken. But the jungle also hides dramas far stranger and more unsettling than simple predation, including instances of biological warfare that target the very minds of its inhabitants. In the undergrowth, a parasitic fungus called Ophiocordyceps has perfected a form of mind control that is the stuff of nightmares. When its microscopic spores infect a specific species of ant, the fungus begins to grow within its body, not killing it, but hijacking its central nervous system. The fungus releases a suite of chemicals that alter the ant's behavior, compelling it to abandon its colony and its normal duties. In its final hours, the infected ant, now a zombie, is driven to climb a plant to a specific height and orientation, a location with the perfect temperature and humidity for the fungus to reproduce. Once in position, the fungus forces the ant to clamp its mandibles onto a leaf in a death grip. The ant then dies, and a fruiting body of the fungus erupts, often gruesomely, from the back of the ant's head. From this elevated platform, it releases its spores downward, raining them onto the forest floor to infect new, unsuspecting hosts. This is a chillingly precise form of cybernetic warfare, an organism that has learned to pilot another from within, turning its host into a guided missile for its own proliferation. Where the zombie fungus engineers the behavior of an individual, some of the jungle's largest inhabitants engineer the very landscape itself. Certain fig and banyan trees are not just plants, they are ecosystem creators, terraforming the environment on a massive scale. They begin life on a host tree, but soon send down aerial roots that look like living ropes. Over decades, these roots touch the ground, thicken into secondary trunks, and spread relentlessly outward. A single tree can thus give rise to an entire forest of interconnected pillars, a sprawling, self-contained architecture that can shade an area the size of a city block. This is not just growth, it is conquest.
The sprawling root systems can fundamentally alter the flow of water, creating new wetlands and redirecting streams. The immense canopy casts a permanent shadow, killing off competing plant species and establishing a new, dominant ecosystem.
For other animals, these root forests become a sanctuary and a fortress. Monkeys leap between the columns, birds nest in their hollows, and jaguars use their shaded labyrinth as a hunting ground. A single banyan tree is more than a plant. It is a living cathedral, an empire builder capable of reshaping the very terrain beneath it, a testament to the power of a single organism to create its own world. The jungle's engineering prowess extends even to the sky, where it has perfected a closed-loop system for managing its most precious nutrients. The forest does not just recycle its water, it meticulously recycles the building blocks of life itself. As trees release moisture into the air through transpiration, tiny organic particles rise with it. Pollen grains, fungal spores, fragments of leaves, and even microscopic organisms are swept upward into the forming clouds. This means the clouds above the Amazon are not pure water vapor. They are a kind of atmospheric compost, rich with the forest's own essence. When the rain eventually falls, it is not just water. It is a nutritional supplement, delivering vital elements like phosphorus, nitrogen, and calcium back to the forest floor. This is a sophisticated system of atmospheric logistics. In a place where the soil is often thin and easily leached by the constant rain, this nutrient cycle is the key to the jungle's impossible lushness. It ensures that the forest is not entirely dependent on the quality of its soil, because it is constantly fertilizing itself from the sky. The clouds are not separate from the trees. They are a functional extension of the forest, a rising and falling tide that carries the very essence of life in an elegant and perfectly balanced rhythm.
The sheer scale of life in the Amazon is a concept that challenges the limits of human comprehension, particularly within the insect kingdom. Current scientific estimates suggest that the basin is home to more than 2.5 million species of insects, a number so vast that only a tiny fraction have ever been formally described, let alone studied. In a single square mile, thousands of different beetles, moths, ants, and flies can coexist. Researchers once fumigated a single tree and cataloged hundreds of unique beetle species living on its bark and leaves alone. This is not merely a display of biodiversity. It is the world's largest, most complex, and almost entirely unread library of genetic information. Each of these millions of species represents a unique evolutionary solution to a complex problem, a potential source for new medicines, novel biomaterials, or revolutionary chemical compounds. The overwhelming majority of this living data remains uncatalogued, an intellectual resource of incalculable value that is vanishing faster than it can be explored. To walk through the Amazon is to be surrounded by a storm of life so diverse that it represents a kind of biological dark matter. We know it is there, we know it is immensely powerful, but we are almost entirely ignorant of its specific nature. Within this teeming world of invertebrates, some have evolved hunting strategies that require a mastery of both technology and physics. In the calmer waters of jungle streams, certain species of spiders have abandoned traditional aerial webs and have become specialist anglers. Perched on a leaf or twig at the water's edge, these fishing spiders use their own silk not to build a passive trap, but to create active fishing lines. This is a stunning example of technological adaptation. The spider has repurposed a core technology, its silk, from a terrestrial application to an aquatic one, transforming it from a net into a high-sensitivity detection line. It is a lesson in innovative problem-solving, demonstrating how a single material can be adapted for radically different operational environments, allowing these hunters to dominate a niche that is inaccessible to their web-weaving cousins. This theme of ingenious structural design is visible everywhere, even in the way plants climb toward the sky. The jungle canopy is thick with climbing plants, or lianas, and their growth is a masterclass in structural engineering. Many have evolved to grow in a tight spiral pattern around the trunks of trees. This helical growth is not random. It is a highly efficient mechanical strategy that maximizes stability and grip while minimizing material stress. The spiral form allows the vine to cling tightly to its host, distributing its weight and the stress from wind and movement across a much larger surface area. This creates a structure that is both incredibly strong and remarkably flexible, a design principle that human engineers have replicated in everything from springs to suspension bridge cables. For the animals of the jungle, these spirals become staircases and highways. Yet beneath this elegant sculptural beauty lies the ruthless calculus of competition. The overall mood, by entwining themselves so perfectly around their hosts, these vines often restrict the host tree's growth, slowly weakening or strangling it in their patient, elegant, and inescapable ascent. The jungle's apex predator, the jaguar, demonstrates a strategic flexibility that sets it apart from all other big cats. Unlike most felines, which are famously averse to water, the jaguar is a master of aquatic warfare. It is a powerful swimmer, effortlessly using the rivers and flooded forests as its personal hunting grounds. In the seasonal floods of the Amazon, it glides silently through the water channels, its spotted coat providing perfect camouflage against the dappled light filtering through the canopy. This is not an occasional behavior, it is a core component of its hunting strategy. Jaguars routinely prey on caimans, turtles, capybaras, and even large fish, using their unparalleled bite force to crush armored shells and skulls. This mastery of both terrestrial and aquatic environments makes the jaguar a true multi-domain predator. It has an operational flexibility that few other animals possess, allowing it to project power across different terrains and exploit resources that are unavailable to its competitors. To see one slip into a river, moving with the silent confidence of a crocodile, is to witness a hunter that has refused to be limited by the conventions of its species, a master of stealth and strength who commands both the land and the water. In the jungle, the continuation of a species often requires astonishing levels of parental investment and logistical support. Among the poison dart frogs, some species go to extraordinary lengths to protect their offspring. After the female lays her eggs on a leaf, the male guards them, but the true labor begins once they hatch into tadpoles. The tiny, vulnerable young wriggle onto the male's back, adhering to his skin with a special mucus. He then begins a perilous journey, carrying his precious cargo up into the high canopy. His objective is to find individual pools of water inside bromeliad plants, the tiny aerial ponds that are safe from the predators of the forest floor. He deposits each tadpole into its own private nursery, a high-risk, high-effort logistical operation that can take days. This behavior represents an immense investment of energy and a significant risk to the parent, but it dramatically increases the survival rate of the young. It is a powerful example of how, in an environment of constant peril, survival is not just a matter of strength or defense, but of meticulous planning, devotion, and the complex logistical support required to ensure the success of the next generation. Reproduction in the jungle is often a game of overwhelming numbers, a strategy of such immense scale that it alters the very landscape.
Certain towering tree species, in their drive to reproduce, engage in a form of biological shock and awe. They produce such a colossal quantity of seeds that their yearly output can be numbered in the billions. When released, these seeds, many tiny and winged, descend upon the forest in a massive, coordinated drop. The sheer volume is a calculated evolutionary strategy. It completely overwhelms the seed predators on the forest floor. There are simply too many seeds for the birds, rodents, and insects to consume. This guarantees that a statistically significant number will survive the initial onslaught. Most will never germinate, falling in places with too much shade or too much competition.
The overall mass release is a gamble on probability, increasing the odds that a few fortunate seeds will land in a newly opened gap of sunlight, where they can then race to become the next giants of the canopy. This strategy transforms the forest floor into a temporary marketplace of abundance, a massive subsidy of energy that feeds countless organisms, all while ensuring the continuation of a single species through the brute force of probability. In a world of constant surveillance by predators, the most effective defense is often not to fight, but to disappear entirely. Camouflage in the jungle is an art form, but some insects have elevated it to a level of deception that borders on the magical. Leaf insects and certain katydids have evolved to mimic leaves with a degree of precision that is almost perfect. Their bodies are not just colored green, they are shaped with shira, ragged edges that look like decay, and even blotches that resemble bird droppings. When they rest among real leaves, they become functionally invisible, a form of biological information warfare. They are feeding false data to the visual systems of their predators, broadcasting the signal, "I am not here." Some species take the deception even further, swaying gently in the breeze to perfectly replicate the movement of the surrounding foliage. This is not passive hiding, it is an active, sophisticated strategy of counterdetection. To be overlooked by a trained scientific observer is a testament to the effectiveness of their disguise. In a place where life and death are decided in a fraction of a second, the ability to vanish in plain sight is one of the most powerful weapons in the jungle's arsenal. The very landscape of the jungle is not fixed, but is engaged in a dramatic, seasonal transformation on a continental scale. In the Amazon basin, the power of the central river is so immense that during the peak rainy season, it can force its own tributaries to flow backward. The sheer volume of water surging down the Amazon creates a hydrological dam, pushing water back up the streams and rivers that feed it, reversing their currents for weeks or months. This is not just a flood, it is a massive, seasonal terraforming event. Entire regions of the forest become submerged, creating vast inland seas where fish swim between tree trunks and river dolphins navigate through what was, only weeks before, dry land. This annual reversal is a critical logistical process for the entire ecosystem. It spreads nutrient-rich silt far into the forest, fertilizing the land. It opens up new habitats and feeding grounds for countless aquatic species. The very idea of a river flowing backward seems to defy logic, yet in the Amazon, it is the fundamental rhythm of life. A powerful demonstration of how the jungle's forces operate on a scale that can reshape the very geography of a continent in a cycle of flood and retreat. The Amazon's power is so vast that it does not simply respond to the weather, it commands it. The basin is a storm-generating engine of continental proportions. Each day, the cumulative effect of 400 billion trees releasing water vapor into the atmosphere creates a massive column of rising humid air.
As this moisture hits the colder upper atmosphere, it condenses into towering cumulonimbus clouds that frequently ignite into powerful thunderstorms. These are not storms that have rolled in from the ocean. They are generated internally, a direct creation of the forest itself. The overall mood of self-sustaining feedback loop is staggering. Lightning flashes across the canopy, thunder reverberates through the valleys, and torrential downpours drench the forest, feeding the system that created them. This is a powerful, self-sustaining feedback loop. The forest creates the rain nourishes the forest, and the forest, in turn, creates more rain. This demonstrates the ultimate form of environmental sovereignty. The Amazon does not just occupy a territory, it controls its own climate, generating its own life-sustaining weather. It is a living, breathing machine that is not a passive recipient of global weather patterns, but an active and powerful architect of its own sky. The sheer scale of collective power in the jungle can leave marks on the planet that are visible even from orbit. While individual ants are tiny, their supercolonies can achieve a level of landscape engineering that rivals human endeavors. The vast subterranean cities built by certain leafcutter ant species can sprawl across hundreds of feet, housing millions of individuals in a perfectly ordered society. The sheer volume of soil they excavate to create their complex networks of tunnels and chambers is so immense that the resulting patterns of mounds and clearings are detectable by satellite imaging. In some parts of South America, entire landscapes are dotted with these formations, each one marking the site of an ant metropolis that may have thrived for centuries. This is a form of non-human urbanism. These supercolonies function as living machines, with specialized castes acting as farmers, soldiers, builders, and royalty, all coordinated through a complex chemical language. Their impact is profound. By selectively harvesting leaves, they can actively shape the composition of the surrounding forest. To know that an insect society can alter the landscape on a scale visible from space is to fundamentally reconsider the definition of a dominant life form. It is a powerful illustration of how collective, coordinated intelligence can transform an environment. The jungle's theme of abundance is often expressed in forms of extreme biological investment. High in the canopy of South America grows a relative of the jackfruit, a tree that produces fruits of a truly colossal scale, with some weighing more than 100 pounds. These massive pods hang directly from the thickest branches and the main trunk, great swollen lanterns of green. This is a high-risk, high-reward reproductive strategy. By packaging hundreds of seeds within a single, enormous, and nutrient-rich vessel, the tree creates an irresistible prize for the jungle's largest frugivores. Monkeys, birds, and even ground-dwelling mammals are drawn to the bounty, and in consuming the sweet pulp, they carry the large seeds far and wide, ensuring the next generation is dispersed across a vast area. For the human communities who live in these forests, a single fruit can be a significant economic event, providing food for an entire family for several days. But it also represents a tangible danger. A falling fruit of that size is a lethal projectile. These giant fruits are a stark reminder of the jungle's incredible fertility, a place where the sheer energy of the ecosystem is sometimes concentrated into forms that dwarf human scale and effort. Just as a hidden river of moisture flows in the sky above, another secret water system courses deep beneath the earth. Not all of the jungle's rivers are visible. In certain geological regions, water has carved clandestine channels through the subterranean rock, creating massive underground rivers that can flow for hundreds of miles. In Brazil, scientists have confirmed the existence of one such system, the Hamza River, which runs nearly parallel to the Amazon, thousands of feet below the surface. Though invisible, it carries an enormous volume of water, shaping ecosystems in ways we are only now beginning to comprehend. These hidden rivers can surface as springs, feeding critical wetlands or nourishing isolated patches of forest during the dry season. For centuries, the existence of these rivers beneath rivers was a staple of indigenous oral traditions, often dismissed by outsiders as myth. Now, modern science has validated this ancient knowledge, revealing a hydrological system of even greater complexity than previously imagined. The jungle is a world of dual waterways, a realm of water above and water below, highlighting that some of its most critical infrastructure and strategic water reserves may be entirely hidden from view. This intimate and dynamic relationship between the water and the trees creates behaviors that blur the lines between ecosystems. In the seasonally flooded forests, where the river rises to submerge entire groves, fish have evolved to become gardeners. When trees that are normally on dry land drop their fruits and berries into the water, massive schools of fish, like the pacu, rush in to feed on the floating bounty. Some species have taken this a step further, developing the ability to leap from the water to pluck ripe fruit directly from overhanging branches. This is more than just an unusual feeding habit. It is a critical cross-ecosystem seed dispersal mechanism. The fish consume the fruit and later excrete the seeds, often miles away, perfectly scarified and ready to germinate. In a place where land and river merge, these fruit-eating fish have become one of the most important vectors for propagating the forest. To witness a silver flash of a fish leaping into the air to snatch a piece of fruit is to see a startling and beautiful example of how interconnected the jungle is, a place where even aquatic creatures play a vital role in shaping the future of the terrestrial world. In the sweltering, super-saturated humidity of the jungle, where temperatures can remain punishingly high, some of the most successful inhabitants are not those who merely endure the heat, but those who have engineered their way around it. Termites have perfected a form of climate control technology that is the envy of modern architects. Their towering mounds are not just fortresses, they are marvels of passive, self-regulating infrastructure. The intricate network of vents and tunnels is precisely designed to harness the natural physics of convection. As the colony's activity generates heat, hot air rises and is channeled out through chimneys at the top of the mound. Simultaneously, cooler air is drawn in through vents at the base, maintaining a stable internal temperature and humidity that is critical for the cultivation of their fungus gardens. This is a decentralized, zero-energy air conditioning system. It is a masterpiece of natural engineering, a solution so elegant and efficient that human designers are now studying it for principles of biomimicry to create sustainable, self-cooling buildings. Each mound is not merely a pile of dirt. It is a living skyscraper, a testament to the power of collective intelligence to solve complex engineering challenges and create perfectly controlled environments. Survival in the jungle often depends on the ability to create shelter, and some of its smallest inhabitants have become ingenious architects. The tent-making bat, a tiny creature, has developed a remarkable strategy for creating its own portable, disposable shelters. Instead of roosting in caves or hollow trees, these bats use their sharp teeth to strategically chew through the veins of large tropical leaves. This precise damage causes the leaf to droop and fold over on itself, forming a neat, waterproof tent. Beneath this shelter, a small colony of bats can gather during the day, perfectly hidden from the eyes of canopy predators like hawks and snakes, and protected from the torrential rains. This is not just a clever behavior, it is an act of ecosystem engineering. The bats are actively modifying their environment to create a tactical advantage. Their leafy tents are a form of temporary, low-cost infrastructure that provides critical security. To find one of these constructions is to discover a secret folded world, a reminder that in the jungle, even a single leaf can be transformed through ingenuity into a home and a fortress. In the Amazon basin, a spectacular and noisy gathering takes place daily along certain riverbanks. Here, hundreds, sometimes thousands, of brightly colored macaws, parrots, and parakeets descend upon exposed walls of clay in a riot of color and sound. This behavior, at first glance, appears to be the strange act of birds eating dirt, but it is in fact a sophisticated form of natural pharmacology. Many of the seeds and unripe fruits that make up the parrot's diet are laced with toxins, chemical defenses produced by the plants to deter consumption. The clay at these specific sites, known as clay licks, contains minerals that bind to these alkaloids and other poisons, neutralizing them in the bird's digestive tracts. The clay lick is, in effect, a natural pharmacy or a detoxification center. It is a critical piece of public infrastructure for the avian community, allowing them to safely exploit food resources that would otherwise be harmful or fatal. The overall gathering at the clay lick is a spectacular display of this vital behavior, a living kaleidoscope that is also a powerful example of how animals have learned to use the geology of their environment as a tool for their own health and survival. In the humid, light-dappled understory, one of the jungle's most extraordinary survival strategies is not about being seen, but about being seen through. Here lives the glass frog, a tiny amphibian whose skin and muscles are so translucent that its internal organs, bones, and even its tiny beating heart are visible from the outside. This is not a biological quirk. It is a form of high-tech active camouflage. When resting on a leaf, the light passes through the frog's body, blurring its outline and making it incredibly difficult for predators to form a recognizable search image. From below, against the backdrop of the bright sky and canopy, it becomes a ghostly, almost invisible silhouette. This is a feat of biophotonics, the manipulation of light by a living organism. Scientists are now studying the unique properties of the frog's skin and tissues, which could hold the key to developing new optical materials. The glass frog is a living jewel, a creature whose very body is a lesson in stealth, a fragile and mesmerizing reminder that in the jungle, one of the most effective ways to survive is to become a living window. In the jungle's perpetual arms race for reproductive advantage, some plants have developed a startling technology that allows them to manipulate not just chemistry or color, but energy itself. Most plants rely on passive signals, but a select few have become thermogenic. They can generate their own heat. Plants like the voodoo lily can raise the temperature of their flowers well above that of the surrounding air, a feat that requires an immense expenditure of energy. This heat serves a dual purpose in their highly specialized strategy. First, it vaporizes and disperses their scent compounds much more effectively, broadcasting their signal over a wider area, much like a powerful radio transmitter. Second, the heat itself can be an attractant, offering a warm shelter for the insects they seek to lure in. This is a form of competitive signaling of the highest order. By investing a massive amount of energy into a single, dramatic thermal event, the plant ensures its signal cuts through the noise of the jungle, a warm, odorous beacon that guarantees its pollinators will find it. It is a powerful reminder that in the jungle, competition can drive the evolution of strategies that seem to bend the very laws of biology.
While some flowers have mastered the repellent language of decay, others have evolved to produce some of the most alluring and familiar scents on Earth. In the dense green understory, it is possible to stumble upon invisible clouds of fragrance that seem entirely out of place. The warm, rich scent of chocolate, or the sweet, intoxicating aroma of vanilla. These are the work of highly specialized orchids and other flowers. Their scents are not meant for human pleasure, but are another form of precision marketing, chemical signals calibrated to attract very specific pollinators. Bees, butterflies, and moths are drawn to these familiar, sugary perfumes, which signal a rich reward of nectar. For humans, the experience is disorienting and almost magical, a reminder that the building blocks of our own culinary delights are born from the ruthless, competitive pressures of the jungle.
Each scent is a unique chemical key, designed to fit the lock of a specific pollinator's senses. In a crowded marketplace, these flowers have survived by evolving a brand identity so powerful and so enticing that their partners cannot ignore it. Deep in the murky, flooded forests of the Amazon, a creature exists that seems to belong to a world of myth. Here glides the Amazon river dolphin, a mammal whose skin can glow with an ethereal pink hue. Unlike their marine cousins, these dolphins have adapted perfectly to the complex, treacherous environment of the jungle's waterways. Their necks are unfused and flexible, allowing them to turn their heads at sharp angles, a critical adaptation for navigating the labyrinth of submerged trees and roots. Their long, slender snouts are perfect for probing the mud and catching fish in the low-visibility water. These are not oceanic mammals who have simply wandered up a river. They are masters of a unique and challenging domain. Local legends often portray them as mystical shapeshifters, a testament to their strange and beautiful appearance. For scientists, they represent a remarkable evolutionary journey, a mammal that left the open ocean to conquer one of the most complex aquatic environments on the planet. Their presence is a symbol of the Amazon's unique power to create life forms that are found nowhere else on Earth. The theme of advanced social organization and resource management finds one of its most sophisticated expressions in the relationship between ants and aphids. In the jungle, some ant species have moved beyond simple hunting or foraging and have domesticated other creatures. They herd and protect colonies of aphids, treating them with the same care that human farmers give to their livestock.
The aphids feed on plant sap, and as they do, they excrete a sweet, energy-rich liquid called honeydew. For the ants, this is a precious and renewable resource. In exchange for a steady supply of honeydew, the ants provide a comprehensive security service. They guard their tiny cattle from predators like ladybugs and wasps, and they will even move the entire herd to new, fresher leaves when the current food source is depleted. This is a perfect symbiotic relationship, a form of non-human animal husbandry. The ants gently stroke the aphids with their antennae to encourage them to produce more honeydew, a gesture that reveals the complex and often delicate nature of these alliances. It is yet another example of the jungle's power to innovate, demonstrating that cooperation, domestication, and even a form of agriculture can evolve in the most unexpected of forms. And so our journey through the green heart of the planet, through this arena of silent conflict and relentless innovation, reaches its conclusion. We have wandered beneath a canopy where rain lingers for minutes before it falls, a world engineered with its own sovereign climate. We have witnessed the deployment of sophisticated biological weapons by thumbnail-sized frogs, and the execution of blitzkrieg military campaigns by armies of ants. We have explored living sensor networks that communicate danger and subterranean intelligence grids that share resources and threat data across vast silent empires. We have seen a world that operates on principles of asymmetric warfare, where snakes fly and centipedes hunt bats from the air. We have decoded the secrets of a non-human Stone Age and stood in awe of living architecture that inspired our own greatest feats of engineering. We have seen the jungle not as a passive landscape, but as an active, thinking, and combative entity. We have learned that this is a realm of profound and unsettling dualities. It is a place where flowers smell of chocolate to lure one partner and of rotting flesh to deceive another. It is where ants have mastered sustainable agriculture and practice animal husbandry, while a parasitic fungus has perfected the art of mind control. It is home to pink dolphins that glide between submerged trees and ancient civilizations whose cities lie buried beneath them. It is a system that can generate its own thunderstorms, reverse the flow of its own rivers, and create rivers of moisture in the sky that dictate the fate of nations. The jungle, we now understand, is not just a collection of species. It is a deeply integrated superorganism, a planetary-scale machine whose health is inextricably linked to the stability of the global climate, the security of global food supplies, and the future of medicine. To view these forests as mere wilderness is a profound strategic error. They are a central theater in the geopolitical struggles of the 21st century. They are a repository of unread genetic data, a living library of solutions to problems in engineering, chemistry, and medicine. They are a massive carbon bank, a financial asset whose control is now a matter of international debate and immense economic stakes. They are a historical archive, holding the proof of ancient technologies like terra preta and the ruins of forgotten empires, reshaping our understanding of human history. The conflict unfolding within their borders, between conservation and extraction, between sovereign rights and global responsibility, between scientific discovery and irreversible loss, is a conflict that will define the coming century.
The jungle is not a backdrop for human drama. It is an active player on the world stage, an entity whose power and importance we are only just beginning to respect. It is at once a fierce and unforgiving battlefield, a nurturing cradle of life, and a library of ancient wisdom, abundant beyond our ability to measure, and fragile beyond our ability to repair. What we do to it, we do to ourselves. Its fate and ours are now one and the same.